Wonderful. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Frequency Soul Collective. My name is Beck McQuilty, and I'm joined here this morning by beautiful Sarah, who I'm going to be going through her scans today. Just as a bit of disclaimer, in regards to the AO scan, we do not claim to diagnose, mitigate, cure, or prevent any disease in the body. So this is an educational tool. So anything that I will be going through today is for educational purposes. So for those of you who won't be speaking today, if I can please get you to mute yourself, that would be amazing. We just have a little bit of noise in the background. There we go. Perfect. And we are going to get started. So for those of you on this call this morning, you're either here to learn a little bit more about how to read your own scans or how to read scans that have been done for you. If you're seeing the AO scan for the first time, it is a biofeedback device that has the ability to be able to look at the frequency of what is happening both emotionally and physically in your body, and then also to be able to work to bring that back into homeostasis. So teaching our bodies to be in the frequency they're meant to be resonating at only can mean optimal health. So it's really important. It's an incredible tool. It's something that I use in my home every single day for myself, my family, and for my clients as well. So whether you're a practitioner or would like to have a device for your own home use, honestly, it is something I use all the time. So my daughter had a bit of a cough earlier in the week, and the minute that I started running a playlist of frequency for her to help her out, her cough completely subsided, and it was able to give her chest a real good rest. So she's only gotten better from there, which is really cool. So we're going to be going through Sarah's scans today. I do have her full permission to go through the results so we can share as we go. But it's just a really great example for you to be able to then go to your scans and maybe have a read through them and understand them a little bit better. So the first scan we're going to be going through today is the inner voice. And I've also spoken to one of our other amazing QLAs, Debbie Jane Harris, who also has a huge amount of experience in the allopathic model of medicine. So being a nurse for over 30 years, I asked her to feel free to chime in as we go, as I'm sure that there's things that I may, go through that she may not, and vice versa. So if you hear DJ chime in, that will be why. So first and foremost, I wanted to go through the inner voice scan because this is firstly my favorite, and it's certainly where we would always start. So what this actually does is it picks up the octaves that are missing in the voice that then correlates to what's going on emotionally in the body. So it uses lie detector technology to work out what frequencies are needed in the body to balance out. So when you receive your report will look like this. You will see a screen just like this to be able to then play the balancing. Sorry, I'll just get you to mute if you're not speaking today. That would be amazing. Thank you. Thanks so much. So to be able to then have a couple of corrections. Now, the couple of corrections that we have within the AO scan for emotional balancing is one, sound therapy, and the other is color therapy. So the sound frequency is actually put through music. So it actually sounds like beautiful music. I would play it for you, but for some reason it does not work on the computer. But when you receive your results, you have the sound of music here and the sound of frequency on this side. Now, some people love the sound of frequency. I am not that person. I do not like the sound of frequency at all. So I choose to turn the sound of frequency down and the sound of the music up. Now you can listen to this in a 3-minute, a 5-minute, or a 10-minute round. And the other one that's really important to note here is that you can change the music. So I tend to love all of the ambient ones, the ambient calming, calm space, and Zen meditation. They're all of the ones that I really enjoy to listen to, but you will be able to go through and have a bit of a play with those. I do recommend listening to your balancing harmonics morning and evening. And if for some reason you can't get to do both, I would definitely start my day as a minimum with listening to your balancing harmonics. Even if you only have 3 minutes, I ask you to sit, put your headphones in. It's always essential to listen to your balancing harmonics with your headphones in, because that's when the frequencies are going to be entering the brain that way to balance out anything emotionally going on. And it just sets a really solid foundation for you to start your day that way. Now, if you would like to listen to your tunes on continuous, you can click on classic tunes, scroll down, and just press play. So you can do it that way as well. If you do it this way, you don't get to choose the music, but it's all really beautiful. And those tunes are in the pulse tunes as well, which are these ones here in the pulse tones. So that is how I would recommend that you get your day started. But let's have a look at the actual report. So if I click on report here, it is going to give us the top 4 emotions that are out of balance for Sarah at the minute. We're not going to go through all of them today, because we don't want to tell you everything about Sarah today. We'll just tell you a few things. We'll keep some things private. But what it's going to do first and foremost, it's going to give you the report and how to read the report, tell you a little bit more about inner voice, but also too, it's going to tell us here the top 4 emotions that are out. And sorry, I'm just going to get everybody to mute. If you're not going to be speaking today, please, that would be appreciated. Thank you. So the first one that's come up for Sarah is at one end, if you can imagine, one end of the scale is anger. So angry versus accepting of change. So at one end of the scale, you have anger. At the other end of the scale, you have accepting of change. And what it's saying is that there is an imbalance between the two. So generally, it'll be more down the negative emotion side. So it then gives you an explanation of the positive and the negative emotions around that. So if we look at...
Would have been good to listen to this more.
Sorry, if you don't mind just muting, that would be great. Thank you. Rather than, thanks so much. So with the negative emotions, for example, anger, tendency to anger over inconvenience or unmet expectations, may cover up feelings of grief, loss, or betrayal with anger due to inability to release those feelings in a healthy manner. Disappointments may manifest as self-sabotage and anger, chronic worry, indecision, and may be associated with feeling of threatened and angry. So there's a lot there that does that resonate with you at the moment? Is there something going on for you that you are feeling a little that way around?
Yes, it definitely does. I was actually just thinking the other day about anger for some reason. I think because I've never traditionally been an angry person, and I feel like I've suppressed a lot of anger. So I feel like lately, just with a few different relationships that I've had, there has been like anger coming up. So it does make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Great. And it's good to be able to validate your feelings as well. And that's what I love about this. I know for myself recently, I was in a situation where repetitive thinking just kept coming around and around and going around in my head. And I did a scan because I knew that that's what I was doing. And sure enough, my first and main one was repetitive thinking versus creative thinking. So I sat and really listened to my tunes to be able to balance that out. And, it's interesting because everything starts with emotion, all dis-ease and, ailments or whatever it is that shows up in the body will start with emotion. So it's really good to be able to see where those emotions actually manifest in the body. And you can see here, as you can see this human body here, it shows the digestive, the liver, and also that gut-brain connection as well. So we know that anger is definitely stored in the liver. So it'll be really interesting to see as we go through your results, what's happening with your liver there, but also to your digestive as well. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that. So listening to those balancing harmonics will definitely help to balance that out. But then also to the supportive color. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who have the technology and have the Lightwave glasses, you can wear these glasses whilst you're listening to the tunes. But for those of you who don't, the best thing you can do is wear your supportive color or look at your supportive color whilst you're listening to your balancing harmonics. So for Sarah, her balancing color there for anger is red, and red supports strength, power, determination, passion, desire, and metabolism. So, and there is 4 emotions that are to be balanced here. And if we just focus more on the areas of the body that we are going to be looking at as to where those emotions kind of sit, it's good for us to be able to note that. So as we go through your scans, we can talk a little bit more into that. So for me to be able to send this to Sarah, I literally just click this little envelope, and I'm going to include the report and also the tunes as well. And so that's literally sending that straight to Sarah's inbox now. So she will not only have that report, but she will have all of those MP3 files to listen to balance those emotions out. Now, how often do you update these? Really, it depends. Some clients update them monthly, other clients update them weekly. For those of you who have a device or are looking at it at your own device, personally, I would actually do this daily. So all of the big scans that you're looking at today, your inner voice, we're going to look at the vitals and the comprehensive. What I would actually do is on a daily basis, do what we call an easy scan. So the EZ scan is like a smaller compressed version of all of these big scans, and it will give you your balancing harmonics every single day. And it will also show you only what is out in the body that couldn't be recorrected so that you know what to focus on. So that's a really powerful one as well. So we are now going to move on to the vitals scan for Sarah. So we have done all of her vitals, but if I wanted to look at something specific, I could deselect everything. And let's say I just wanted to do her chakras, I could just click on her chakras and do that. But we have done all of the reports for Sarah today. And again, I'll have these emailed through to her also. So what we look at is a scale of 1 to 9. So if you can imagine an old school radio and you've got the dial, and let's say we were wanting to listen to 96.5 FM, then the dial would need to be sitting right on 96.5 FM for us to be able to listen to the music clearly.
Not sure where she's gone to. Let me just message her and find out where she's.
Looks like she's frozen.
Yeah. Okay, she may be. Oh, yeah, I think she's probably having to come back on. We've had interesting internet situations here. She's back.
About that, everyone. That was intermission. Did you enjoy intermission? I hope everyone had their coffee break and their bathroom break. Don't you love technology? Seriously, I was literally obviously in the middle of a sentence and everybody just disappeared. And you know what's really funny about that? Back in the old days, I would have completely freaked out. Do you know there was not one part of me that actually was like, oh no, I was just like, okay, what happened? How am I going to fix this? Anyway, here we are. We're back. All right. I love that. Doesn't that just show personal growth? It's when things like that happen that and that you don't freak out and anxiety doesn't kick in, that you go, oh, look at me. I am growing as a human. That's amazing. So anyway, as I was saying, we're back from intermission. Apologies about that. So let me share with you in regards to the old school radio that I was talking about. For you to be able to listen to the station, it needs to be on that station. And that's where we like to see your frequencies be balanced around a 4, 5, or a 6. So we can see whether, because everything resonates at a specific frequency and we're all the same. So our heart should all resonate at the same vibration. A vein or an artery in our leg should be a specific frequency. So what this device actually does is it will tell us whether it is in range or out of range. Now, if you're looking up here around a 7, 8, or a 9, then you're looking at it being overactive or, in a bit of inflammation happening. If you're down the other end of the scale, you're like a 1, 2, or a 3, you're looking at it being underactive and sluggish. So what we do is we scan twice. The first thing we did for Sarah is we scanned through her body to see just where the frequency sat without changing absolutely anything. And that's where you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen here, it says previous scan, and it shows whether certain things for Sarah were either in range or out of range. And then what we do is we run the technology through, we're using scalar waves and Rife frequency through the body again, and then we work to bring anything that was out of alignment back into alignment. So you can see here for Sarah, cow's milk was a 9, so it's way overactive and inflammatory. And then when we've worked to optimize those frequencies to try to bring them back into homeostasis, it's brought it down to a 7, which it makes it now in range, which is fine. What we focus on, though, is anything that wouldn't realign. So it's really this column on the left-hand side that says out of range that we want to focus on, and specifically anything that's red that wouldn't realign. Now, you can see here things like, cheddar cheese, cow's milk were all quite inflammatory. So that would tell me that for Sarah, it would probably be a good idea anyway. Dairy is quite inflammatory anyhow. I would definitely kind of lay low on the dairy, but butter particularly couldn't realign for Sarah. So do you find that your body gets affected by dairy, Sarah?
I don't personally notice it too much, but my son is lactose intolerant, so maybe I've got like some lactose intolerant that I haven't noticed too much. I mean, maybe a little bit, but probably because I don't overly eat dairy, but I do have a lot of like milk, I guess, because I have coffee and things like that.
Yeah. So it might be worth just looking to replace it for a bit of a plant-based milk potentially. Personally, I never recommend soy, but soy is an estrogen mimicker, so I probably wouldn't recommend soy, but a good organic almond milk or something like that. So what we're looking at first and foremost is your food sensitivities. And so what this means is it's not an allergy as such, but what we're looking at is foods that your body wouldn't be able to handle in this moment. I've done your scans super up to date, so they were done this morning. So what it's saying is today, if you were to consume these foods such as butter, that your body wouldn't be able to process them very well. And sometimes foods will come up for people that people either eat a lot of, like let's say dairy or gluten or eggs or something like that. And it could be that you just need to back off from eating so much of that. I know a girlfriend of mine was telling a story recently about lobster. Lucky her, she went and ate a whole heap of lobster. And then it came up on her scan that lobster was a 9, so her body had too much of it. So it can show in that way, but it can also show the opposite as well. It could be that someone might be celiac and gluten is showing in range and a 5, and it's because they haven't had it for so long that it's balanced out. It doesn't mean it's okay for them to go and have if it's an allergy, but it means that their body is resonating at the right frequency at that particular time for gluten. Now, the other thing that we can see is things like, let's say a lot of fish come up for you, but you may not eat fish or whatever the case may be. But if we look further down in your omegas and your fatty acids, it could be out because your body is actually needing more omegas. So You just need to be, when you're reading your scans, just keep your mind open to what it could mean. I see a lot of spices and things come up for people, and I honestly believe that when I see that, it's people who are having spices that are not organic. And the minute we change them over to organic spices, all of that goes away. So eating predominantly organic is ideal. So fruits, you could see quite a few were out here, but all realigned. There's actually really nothing that would be flagging to me in fruits that's going to be too much of an issue for you. Grains, there was a couple, so brown rice and wheat. So wheat was did flag for you. So I don't know if you eat a lot of wheat, but if so, I would probably just look at dropping back for a little while, and then we would look at rescanning you maybe in a week just to see if that has kind of subsided a little bit. Legumes and nuts, things like lentil beans, peanut. When it comes to meat, there was a fair bit of meat there, but all realigned except duck. So even beef and lamb and pork were out of alignment, but all came back into alignment. So your body would be able to process those fine. Now, a lot of the time, if someone's eaten too much beef does process very slowly through the digestive tract. So I think that sometimes when people have eaten beef and then if this was to show a 9 and then they were to continue to eat beef again, that would just show that the body wouldn't do a very good job of processing. That's all. So seafood, not too much seafood. Nuts all realigned perfectly, not too many seeds. A couple of little spices like star anise, baking powder, coffee. I always ignore that one. When that comes up for me, I know that's terrible. I shouldn't ignore it, but I do like to have 1 coffee a day. But it is saying if you were to have more coffee at this moment, your body probably wouldn't be able to process that very well, because coffee can be quite acidic. So that's just something to be mindful of. Ginger, mint, mustard, and vanilla. Vanilla comes up a bit for people randomly. Vegetables, so cucumber, eggplant. So eggplant is a nightshade, so that could be why eggplant is showing for you. But everything kind of really realigns really nicely for you. Usually people, there's quite a number of things that are out for them. I know onion comes up a bit for me because my body does not like onion. It doesn't process it very well at all. I know a lot of people are the same. So that's just something there to be mindful of. Then we look at your blood lipids. Now, if there's anything that you're wanting to know through when you look at your scan that you may not know the meaning of, you can actually click on it, and it will also, in most cases, always a bad example when I click on the one that doesn't give it to you, will give you an explanation as to what it is. Okay, so you'll find that like with your blood count, your full blood count here, you'll generally find, if you've had a bit of a virus or something like that, your white and red blood cell count can be out a little bit. What we also find is that things happen in the body energetically from a frequency perspective before they happen physically. So I saw a case done a while ago where a lady was in hospital and she'd had her blood work done, and then she had a scan done, and the scans did not line up. However, after the scan, when she had a blood test done the next day, then the things that had shown up in the scan started to show up in her blood work. So sometimes if it's a virus or something like that, it can tend to show up physically in the body afterwards if it doesn't sort of resonate at that time. So that's just something to be mindful of. Also too, it doesn't also mean if, things like bacteria or viruses or anything like that do show, doesn't necessarily mean that you have it, although you may. It can be ancestral. So I've seen tuberculosis come up for people where they're holding the frequency through ancestry, or you've come in contact with someone, with a particular virus or bacteria. If you've been out and about a fair bit, I know when I've caught planes, I tend to hold frequencies of all sorts of things that show in my body. So it's interesting. Your omega and fatty acids, there was quite a bit out here, but most were brought into alignment. Definitely something just to, I would say, keep an eye on. Nothing from a serious perspective, but you know, for those of us who don't have a lot of fatty acids in our diet and our omegas, it's really important that we do supplement those. From a chakra perspective, your chakras are amazing.
Good.
Yeah, and particularly when we first see chakras, there's usually a lot that's high and low. You only had one that was out of alignment, that was underactive, and that was your heart chakra, and everything balanced. As you can see here, we've got all the previous here. Most of them were green anyway, bar the heart chakra, but everything was brought back into alignment. But for those who, you know, do have some highs and lows going on, again, what we tend to focus on is anything that couldn't realign. And then it actually gives you a full explanation down here. So let's say your heart chakra was low and then it wouldn't realign, which was not the case for you. But then we could look at some of the potential physical aspects of what could be going on in the body. So, but for you, all of yours realigned, so that was beautiful. So if you can imagine your chakras as your energy centers of the body, and then imagine your meridians like the electrical currents that run through the body, and you can actually see through the meridians here. It actually shows you the meridian line of where they actually run, which is amazing. Now for yourself, Sarah, your large intestine was underactive and wouldn't realign. So we're going to have a look at that this morning. And then also to your heart, again, your heart meridian, which is interesting because your heart chakra was underactive and now your heart meridian as well. So we'll have a bit of a look at that. And the rest were all fine. So, but if we look at, so large intestine, we can scroll down here and it will give us some of the explanations physically that could be going on. But also too, the emotional links, you know, fear of loss, self-esteem, that actually came up in your emotional balance scan. So it's interesting that we start to see the patterns emotionally of what's then showing up in the body. Guilt, avoiding connections. And then in the heart meridian, there we go. So your heart meridian can be related to spleen and pancreas, AIDS, stomach, etc., etc. And then we've got some of the physical, the emotional, and see anger has come up through here as well. So we start to see that, putting those pieces of the puzzle together in regards to what's going on physically in the body, but how it has started emotionally. So there's a little bit of digestion. So again, by seeing in the large intestine, so the large intestine sort of in that meridian, we're now starting to see a little bit of a pattern with digestive. Do you feel that you've had some digestive stuff going on over a period of time, Sarah?
I think so, because I feel like I haven't been eating as healthy lately. Like I have definitely been eating more wheat. It's interesting that showed up, and I do feel like it does make me feel less like I do feel like my digestion's more slow or sluggish.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that being able to starting to see the pattern in that now, that if we can drop off the wheat, you know, and start to work on the digestive tract, that would be a huge benefit to you, I feel. We can see that there was a bit of inflammation going on, but everything realigned. So again, this is something that, you know, we could go through absolutely everything and pull all apart for Sarah, but just when everybody is going through their scans, please just know that when you're going through, that you can click on things. If you're not sure, you know, what something is, you can click on it. It will give you an explanation. And also too, it's nothing to rush to the doctor for, but it's something just to be aware of, that we want to be bringing these things back into homeostasis to teach the body how it should be behaving. We look at amino acids, digestive enzymes. You can see that there was a lot of digestive enzymes out here, but again, all recorrected. So it's nothing we really need to do much about. Micro, macro minerals. One of the things that I love to focus on, and that's because I have it, so I know a little bit about it, is the MTHFR gene mutation. So if that flags for somebody, which it did both here for Sarah, but we did bring it back into alignment, that is something that I would keep an eye on. Anyone with the MTHFR gene mutation means that you cannot methylate your vitamin Bs. So it means you're generally tired, sluggish. And as much as the Bs have pretty much aligned here, B1 was out, B3, your B9 was out as well. Folate's always a big one with MTHFR. So for anyone who tends to see this still out, this MTHFR, and then you have vitamin Bs out as well, it might be worth looking into and having just a blood test that you can get from your general practitioner, but also to taking a methylated vitamin B supplement, which we do have with Solex. It's called Prime Methylated. Would definitely be a good recommendation. The other thing that I would look at through here is your iron levels, and I would also look at your ability to detoxify through the liver. So that could be, remember, liver came up for you before. We'll have a little bit of a look further down and see if that comes up. So we look at cardiovascular, we look at your collagen. Your hypothalamus was out. We'd like to see that realigned. Hormones all realigned really nicely. Kidneys. So here we go, liver and gallbladder. So here, this is exactly what I was just talking about, is your detoxification through the liver. So these two are both out. So it would say to me that potentially the liver is just a little bit sluggish.
Mhm.
So now we're starting to put more pieces of the puzzle together for you, where that might be potentially, you know, something we need to look at as like a good liver support sort of supplementation over a period of time. But, you know, again, nothing to kind of rush in and do anything about, but something just to keep an eye on.
Mhm.
We then move into all of your general allergens like animal dander. Some of these we actually don't have in Australia here, but we do have in the US and Canada. And then we look at some, so as I was saying before about the bacterial side of things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have these, but it does mean that your body is holding the frequency of them. So for me, what I would recommend is a bacterial detox, which we can actually create a playlist with the device and actually do for you. It can also be sometimes something that you may have had, let's say shingles or chickenpox showed up. It can be something that you've had previously that your body is still holding the frequency of. Human toxins, you did actually have quite a few here, but most of them all realigned. The only one that didn't realign was alcohol. Now, I don't know if you drink alcohol, but if you don't, what that can be is fermentation in the gut.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So it could be that as well.
It's interesting. Do you think, because I used to drink a lot of alcohol, but then I haven't drunken any alcohol for like almost 3 years. So do you think it could be because of the previous drinking it?
Could be. Yeah, absolutely could be. And it could be that alcohol is still, you know, in some ways affecting the body too.
Yeah.
But it could also be that it may not be that, and it may be that there could be some fermentation in the gut. And we do know that there's a bit of gut health stuff going on there. So I would suggest a good gut healing protocol, which is what I recommend to my clients. And I can send you some details on that just to assist with that as well. You had a fair bit of heavy metals going on, but most of that realigned. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But, you know, for those who continue to see heavy metals through their scans, running a heavy metal detox from a frequency perspective is really good. There's also some really good zeolites out there that you can take to pull the heavy metals out. Parasitic activity, we all have parasites in our bodies. There was quite a few showing through here for you, but all realigned. Again, for those who do show a lot of parasites, are generally meat eaters and have animals in the home. Again, nothing to rush off necessarily and go and do, but if you continue to see parasites coming up through the scans, which you don't have a huge amount of, Sarah, so it's fine for you. But for those of you who do, running a parasite frequency to remove those, but also to potentially a parasite cleanse might be recommended. You can see also here viruses on the right hand side, but none on the left. So which is good. It's all realigned and that's all nice and clear. Normally we'll at least see sort of one or two. For people who have had COVID injections, we tend to see things like Epstein-Barr, herpes simplex, a lot of parainfluenzas, and a lot of, the shingles / chicken pox as well. So one thing that we also, and I've experienced myself, is it shows Lyme's disease. Now, that's because I travel to the US a fair bit, and I know one of the main vaccines over there, they actually use the tick venom. So for me, it takes a long time, up to 2 to 3 months it can take me to actually detox the Lyme frequency out of my body. And I do that with the bioresonance device that I have with AO. So, but it's interesting that, I'm just going to send you this report while we're talking. It's interesting that we have the ability to see all of these things potentially going on in our bodies. Imagine there's so many people out there that don't know that these things are going on in their bodies and therefore, can't correct them. So it's just so powerful for us to be able to do that, which is brilliant. Now we're going into the comprehensive scan now, which is the musculoskeletal side of things. And I'm going to show you that report. But again, if there was something for Sarah that I wanted to specifically look at, let's say Sarah had a sore shoulder, I could deselect everything and just do your shoulder so that we could focus on that. But for the point of this exercise, I wanted to, of course, share everything so that we can see exactly what's going on in the body and be able to explain to people how to read their scans as well. Just while that's loading, I'm just going to quickly go to the chat and see if I've got any questions. Just see if there's anything that I need to know.
I also just want to chime in while you're looking at that, Bex.
Yeah, of course.
Just also remember that, just as in the allopathic model, that one blood test on its own will give us a snapshot of right now. And often, the doctor will say we'll need to repeat these in 3 months or, after they've given you ABC to take. So it's no different with this, that we're looking for patterns, we're joining the dots, and anything that is, that's out chronically, we want to repeat those scans at least 3 times before we decide that this could potentially be a thing. And so, in the meantime, you can bring in your other modalities and supports and around, gut health or, whatever's showing up on your scan, but just, because I know a lot of people remembering that this is not a diagnostic tool. I know that, for instance, there are people who've had surgeries where maybe things are missing, but the frequency of the thing still shows up. So say you've had your appendix out, but it's still showing that frequency. And that's no different to when somebody gets a leg amputated and they still get phantom pain. As though the frequency is still there. It's a really interesting thing to get your head around, but just so that you know that, because some people go, well, that can't be right because I've had that removed, or but the frequency of the thing will actually still be there in the body. So I just wanted to sort of I was seeing a few questions coming through about that, and remembering too that pain be referred and quite often is referred. So we can be experiencing pain in a certain part of our body, but it's actually coming from somewhere else. And that would be then we would be looking at meridians too. We're looking at all the pathways, and definitely seek chiropractic or, you know, acupuncture or whatever it is that you use to help support those aches and pains. So because it all works together, you know, and then we can keep running frequencies to the area to help support our body and keeping in balance while we're doing all the other things externally to help support that. So it's a real holistic approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, DJ. Gail asked on here in regards to like nicotine or smoke was showing for her as a 9, and you know, she doesn't smoke, and that's it's the same thing similar to like alcohol. Sometimes people who don't drink show alcohol up there, and it can be similar to like Sarah, where, you know, Sarah used to drink but she doesn't drink anymore, or it can be fermentation of the gut. With smoking, I actually had a client a while back where this happened, and I think Anthea put in there, and thank you for that, is that there's nicotine in nightshades. So if you're eating certain things that are nightshades, so it's not always just as it seems, you know, it's not that black and white of, you know, nicotine or smoke or whatever it might be. It can be that the client that I had a while ago, she was like, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, and it was showing like smoke on hers. And but she'd had her gardener had been at her house all day, and he was a smoker, and so she had actually received the frequency of that smoke onto her body and was holding the frequency. So it can honestly be as simple as walking through the street. For me the other day, nicotine detox came up, and it's because I've just been down in Byron Bay walking along, and there I was out on the road with a guy the day before yesterday, and he's a smoker, and full nicotine detox came up for me to do on my scanner. I was like, oh my gosh, the how accurate it is absolutely blows my mind. Now, had I have not done a scan on myself, it actually wouldn't have even occurred to me, to be honest, that to even do a nicotine detox. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's you, but it is a frequency that is holding to your body for some reason, so, or in some way. So this is a comprehensive scan where we look at the musculoskeletal side of the body. Personally, for me, I like to look at this as a table report, but I wanted to show you both ways so that you can choose which way to look at the report yourself. So again, on the right-hand side is when it's running through the body the first time without making any shifts or changes. The second time is working to optimize those frequencies to bring them back into homeostasis. So you can see here, originally it was a 9, now it's a 7. And if you follow the blue line, you'll actually see exactly where that part of the body, that specific artery is that we're looking at. Again, for me, I prefer to look at it as a table report. So I'm going to click over to table report because it looks very similar to the vital scan that we just saw. Now, there's a couple of things different to the vital scan that we're looking at here for Sarah. And what I'm looking at here is anything over a 70%. So anything over 70%, we would generally flag as concern or just something to look into. And we're also wanting the percentages to come down. Now, they won't always come down because some parts of the this result may go up or down. It really just does depend. So I wanted to try and find an example of, so let's say, for example, here with this particular artery where it says here in the first scan it was a 5 and now it's a 3. Without understanding that, you may think that it's actually made it worse, but that's not the case. What's happened is once it's run through the body, it's looked at it and thought, yes, it was a 5, but when it's actually gone to optimize those frequencies, sometimes cells can clump together. It's when those cells actually break apart that it can identify actually that specific artery is actually a 3, not a 5. And that's why in some of these results, you'll see the percentages may sometimes go up, not down, because when it's optimizing the frequencies, it's actually identifying that it may be actually higher or lower. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to scroll through and look for, with Sarah, something specific that I might be able to flag to her. This is a huge report, so excuse me while I kind of flick through this, but you can definitely take the time to be able to go through this report yourself. to be able to really look at and spend time going through each part of the body, especially if you've got something going on in your body at the moment that you can't necessarily identify. Like Debbie Jane was saying before, sometimes, you know, you might feel like it's something specific, like in your shoulder or your hip or whatever, and it could be coming from another part of the body. So just be mindful of that. Sarah, one of the things I'll flag to you just real quick is your left elbow. Have you ever had issues with your left elbow?
Oh, not really.
Mm-hmm. It's showing here, it was at 69%. So there was definitely some inflammation going on, but we've brought it down to 42%. It could be something, sometimes too, I find specifically with the elbows is phone use.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's ligaments that run from your hand up to your elbow. Sometimes it could just literally be if you get a little bit of a strain in your forearm that goes up to the elbow, that could actually be what it is from using your phone. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, that makes sense because I am holding my phone a lot.
Yeah. So it
Mhm.
could be that for sure. I'm just going to scroll through and find something specific that I can show you. Again, what I'm looking for is anything sort of around in the 60s or 70% for Sarah in regards to anything physical. There's a little bit of heart. Again, that was 60, but it's down to 32, so that's good. We want to make sure that those frequencies are coming down there for sure. Sometimes you'll see a lot of things lymphatic going on in the body. I quite often will recommend to clients to go and have a good lymphatic massage. Particularly, I think it's one of those things that people don't tend to think about too much. We think of going and having a massage, we go and have a normal massage and that's all good. But a lymphatic, having our lymphatics actually drained is actually a really good idea. So if you have never done that, that is something that I always recommend. So I'm just going to get down to somewhere that I can see something that may be a little bit higher. But again, this is a really great tool. I know for myself, I did an injury in my shoulder recently. And before I went and I did actually go and have it scanned. But before I did, I did resonance on it and just checked what was going on. And sure enough, exactly what came up on the scanner on this was exactly what showed on the ultrasound, and the radiographer was actually really quite surprised at the accuracy of it. So it was really quite incredible. So what I'm going to look for is probably down a little bit further to so there's a little bit more around digestive. There's a few 9s. A lot of that's been recorrected, but again, digestive is definitely flagging here.
Mm-hmm.
Kidneys come up before as well, so I would just make sure you're drinking a lot of good clean water. Just no tap water, making sure that you know the water that you are drinking is really good and filtered. Again, liver has shown a little bit as well. It's not up around the 70%, but it was at 53, and we've brought that down to 41. But if you're wanting to look at what part of the body that is, if for example, we go, okay, well, the left lobe segment 3 was a 9 and it couldn't be recorrected, and you know, we have absolutely no idea where that sits in the body, you can actually click on it and it will open like this. So when you're looking at your scans, if it looks like an Excel spreadsheet, click back out of it and click on the link as opposed to the attachment, and you'll be able to see it exactly how I show it to you here. But what this will do is it'll actually show you, my computer's a little bit slow, apologies, but it will actually flag and show you exactly where in the body that part actually sits.
Okay.
And you can do this from home with the report when you have received that. So this is really handy, particularly if you've got like neck pain or something going on in your back. you might be going to the chiropractor or your osteopath, you can actually have this report and be able to show them so that you can actually see, as Debbie Jane was saying before, the parts of the body that may actually be, you know, you may be feeling in pain or something like that may not necessarily be the parts that are actually that are causing you the issue. So that's where it's really important to be able to see that, sort of to see if there's anything else that we can specifically flag for you.
And some people will even just listening to their balancing harmonics is enough to bring, because we hold the frequencies of those emotional, the things that are out in our emotional being, we store those frequencies in our physical body, and they start to affect and create pain and things in our physical body. So just by listening to the balancing harmonics can be enough to help to bring that physical ailment that you're experiencing a symptom of. Doesn't necessarily mean that you've got, you know, discs out in your back or some catastrophic thing going on. It's just that things are out of balance. So that, yeah, the whole thing is about bringing back homeostasis.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was just going to see if we have any questions, but yes, so the goal is to always reduce that percentage from ideal and bring that down. Will we always have things out of balance? Absolutely. We're human beings, we breathe, we eat, all of those things. So there will always be things out of balance, which is why it's such an incredible tool to be able to work to bring things back into homeostasis. In the subtle energy frequency imprinter, I just want to show you this really quickly. We have the ability to be able to create custom playlists, to be able to send frequencies to a person, place, object, or animal. So this is a really great tool as well. Again, when my little E was not well last week, she was really quite sick. I was running frequency for her every day. But it can also be that if you can imagine this like a library and the different aisles of the library walking through, you can actually go into each of these sections and see all of the different frequencies that are available. Now, the other thing that you can do as well, which is amazing, you can actually, I can scan Sarah in real time as I'm doing right now, and it's going to tell me what her priority is for, which is energies. Does that resonate, Sarah? Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're needing today. So what I'm going to do for Sarah, because she's been so kind to let us go through all of her scans, I'm going to create Sarah a playlist, and I'm going to run that all day for her.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm going to make sure, yeah, my absolute pleasure. I'll make sure I include energy in there for you. But also too, under quantum frequencies, we have everything you could possibly imagine. It's interesting. I used to suffer quite badly from like a benign arrhythmia in my heart. And it's not been until I started playing frequency regularly, specifically for that problem, that I've actually been able to correct that. It still comes back from time to time. But when it does, I just remind myself to play the frequency to that particular part of my body, because then it's teaching it how to behave. So again, self-confidence and self-esteem has come up as a priority. If we remember back to not only the emotional balance scan for you, but then also through meridians, that came up. So that's the third time that's come up. So I'll include that in your little playlist that I'm going to create today. One of my favorite ones is quantum flowers. Now, this is one that we do need the person in person or to have a device for, because this has only imprinting ability, only not to broadcast the frequency. But to be able to imprint the frequency, we can actually imprint anything. So what I'm working with here, for example, is a quantum flower, similar to your Bach flowers. And it will tell me the main emotion that's going to come up for Sarah, and then what quantum flower would actually balance that out. Now, if Sarah was with me, I could imprint a glass of water. I could imprint sugar pillules and have her actually consume those, or even imprint a piece of jewelry for her to be able to wear. So the emotion is strong-willed and holds strong views, putting unnecessary effort into everything you undertake. Your mind races ahead of events, often suffer from lack of sleep due to an overactive mind. Is that you?
Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is always so accurate. It is phenomenal. I absolutely love this part of the device as well. And if we're wanting to detox anything, we can go into homeoenergetics and anything with, whether it be bacteria, candida. I was telling you a little bit about my experience with Lyme before. You can actually add these into a playlist and detox these out as well. So there is so much that you can do with this device, but that's just a little bit on how to read the reports as well. So for those of you who have experienced a scan, that is amazing. Please go back to the person who did the scan for you. They will send those reports through to you, and then you can go through those, having a bit of a better understanding now. And anyone who hasn't experienced a scan yet, I really encourage you to go back to the person who invited you to this Zoom and ask for a scan, because you really will be blown away at the accuracy of how incredible. Moving forward, this is a device, it's a handheld device that you can utilize in your own home. There is a small mobile phone size device and a larger iPad sort of size device as well. They're the two different sizes, and they're really reasonably priced. And we then pay a fee to have the unlimited access to all scanning capabilities, unlimited profiles, and all system updates as well. And I know that, gosh, the device and the capabilities of it have grown so much since even I got involved, 12, 18 months ago. It's been phenomenal. So I think we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to today. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I really appreciate your time. And any questions, again, please reach out to the person who has invited you to this Zoom. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Sarah, for allowing us to go